Good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha, Tatsavitra Vareneyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat, Asto Ma Sadgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, मृत्योर्मामृतं गम्य ओम सहना भवतु सहना भुनक्तु सवीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति शांति शांति. Let's open the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And this is a conversation between Yajnavalkya, the Rishi Yajnavalkya, with his wife Matri. So she asked some questions, and last week we saw how beautifully, with the analogies of drum, conch, and a lute, he is telling her that the universe is really the Supreme Self, even when it appears external to ourself. So whatever is perceived by the senses and the mind is an effect. And an effect cannot be known unless the cause is known. And all the effects have a series of causes. And that's why it said that universe is a circular chain of never-ending links of cause and effect. It's a cyclical. These finite objects are a mystery, limited and individualized intellect cannot fathom. Even the senses, they have the incapacity to pierce the name and the form of any object. They cannot understand the subject behind that object. And that's why there are false impressions on the mind that objects are separated by space and time. So with these three examples, he tried to establish that fact. Now in the next verse, he is establishing through the illustration of a fire and smoke that the world has emanated from the Atma. As smoke naturally arises from fire ignited with wet fuel, without any effort on the part of any of the factors involved, the same way this phenomenal world emanates from the Supreme effortlessly. All knowledge is breathed out of this great being. That's why it said that the Vedas, they got breathed out from the mouth of Brahma effortlessly. So creation is an effortless and natural to the absolute, as the breathing is to living beings. As fire does not change its nature due to the loss of smoke, the non-dual absolute does not change its essential nature by the creation of these vast universes. The effect carries with it the characteristics of the cause. So the universe that is the effect of the infinite Brahma is also called infinite. Towards the end of our classes every day, we say this mantra, Purnam Ada, Purnam Idam. That means infinite. Brahm is infinite. So is this creation. That is the statement of the Upanishads. But due to ignorance of the true nature of the Absolute, we consider the world as separate and external to the Atma. And sometimes we think it's unreal, as the pot, which is a manifestation of a clay. Or when we see that mirage on the water. So having proved that the world is essentially the Supreme Brahma, even now when it appears as the world, and that it was Brahm before creation, so this section of the Upanishad, through a series of illustrations, confirms that the world remains as Brahm, and also after dissolution too, after Pralaya also. All effects merge in their respective causes, and that is the law of nature. A divine law that holds good at all times. Just like all waters are traceable to its source. And what is the source? Ocean on this earth. The same way all the forms of touch, smell, color, taste, and sound, as also the function of the motor organs and the mind and the intellect, they can be traced to their respective organs in the body. So this is called a merging the effect into its cause. The sound, for instance, is merged into the ear, which in its turn is identified with the mind. And the mind again is resolved into the cause, the intellect. And the intellect into Mahat or Hiranyagarabha. And Hiranyagarabha into Ishwar. And Ishwar into the Absolute, the ultimate cause of everything. This ultimate supreme, the causeless cause, can be attained through meditation. And we can start it with any object in this world. As long as that object, our mind thinks is divine. When through such meditation, our mind merges in the ultimate cause, what happens? There comes the flood of illumination, almost like lightning. That's how a person perceives only the absolute in every object, seen or even unseen, heard or unheard, smelt or not smelt, tasted or not tasted, touched or not touched, thought of or not thought of. A person experiences in a mysterious manner the truth of the whole Vedic dictum, which is what? Sarvam Kalvidam Brahm. All this is certainly the absolute, that the whole universe is a mass of consciousness, is also shown through the analogy of salt and water. This is another verse. We may not be able to get to that today, so that's why I'm going to just leave it for next Thursday. But let's look at a couple of verses over here. Verse number 10, because we finished with the analogy of Veena with verse number 9. So this is at the bottom of page number 149. Sa yatha adra agnehe vyatihi prithak dhumaha विनश्चरन्ति एवं व अरेयस्य महतो भूतस्य निश्चितिः एध्यं वेदो चक्षुवेदा सामवेदो अथर्व अंगिरस इतिहासा पुराणम विद्या उपनिषदः श्लोकः सूत्र अन्य व्याख्यानानि अस्य एव एतानि निश्चितानि. As various kinds of smoke produced from a fire kindled with damp fuel, even so, my dear Matri, the Rigved, Yajurved, Samved, Atharv, Angiras, history, mythology, arts, Upanishads, mantra verses, aphorisms, elucidations, and explanations are the breath of this limitless reality. They are like the breath of it alone. So this is the literal translation of verse number 10. So smoke in the fire. Some may say that you conceive this universe as a modification of a Brahma. Because people do talk like that, it's a modification. So when we say modification, that means it's a different in nature and form. See, just like a gold nugget converted into various ornaments, they do differ in the name and form from its cause, the gold. And that doctrine is called Parinamavad, the theory of complete transformation. That theory involves a change to your changeless Brahma. And some people say that there is a vast distinction between the universe, which is considered as definable, and Brahma, which is considered undefinable. How then can a person assert their identity? How can a person say that Brahma, one without a second? So how do we solve these differences? This mantra is shedding a beautiful light through the interesting analogy. We can exercise our reasoning, we can analyze, we can understand that the entire universe is not something distinguishable from its cause with the help of this analogy. Normally, there seems a gulf between the secondary phenomenal reality of the universe and the absolute, but it's bridged by this analogy. This mantra talks about the relation of identity between the fire and smoke. Relation of the universe is the same with the absolute reality, which is one of the essential identity. That's why Shruti says, thou art that. That there's no difference. So thou art that bridges this seeming gulf of difference between the definable and undefinable. So here in this mantra, it is established through this analogy that the universe is not a transformation of Brahma. As the smoke, in the smoke, see, when the fire is ignited in a damp wood or a damp fuel, The same way he says all this emanates out of this great being, all this is like the breath of this infinite reality. There's no difference. The Supreme Self, just like a man breathes, the same way this infinite reality breathes out all this. And what are those things which have been breathed out of this infinite reality? That is in the form of knowledge, which again is the cause for actual empirical perception. Since the conception of universe has knowledge for its basis, Gyan. Brahma could create only with the help of Saraswati. Saraswati is what? The Gyan. Knowledge which takes the form of universal appearance is represented by the Vedas. And also the other scriptures too. They are the authorities on that subject. Just as the existence of a particular object is dependent upon the knowledge of that object, the same way the existence of this relative universe is dependent on the Vedas. That's why they are called Praman, Shruti Praman. The Rig Veda, he mentions in this mantra, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, and Atharva Veda are 4 divisions of the one Veda. So it's just a division only. And Itihas is meant historical dialogues between different rishis actually. Itihas. There 2 Itihas is very famous, Ramayana and Mahabharata, but there have been many other Itihas also. There are conversations, dialogues between Urvasi and Pururavs. Puranas are also ancient scriptures. Very valuable information is given in the Purans, and there are 18 of them. The Vedas were a little hard to understand, very deep philosophy. So Puranic stories were created by those saints so that average person can understand it also with the help of the stories. So this universe was in the beginning unmanifest. And the term Vidya in this mantra refers to the sciences dealing with music also, dancing also, and other arts also. That's called Vidya. And Upanishads mean secret and sacred doctrines pertaining to the nature of the universe and the absolute. Shlok means verses. We are familiar with that. Bhagavad Gita shloks. And then there are mantra, Ved mantra. They occur in the Brahmans. Brahmans are regarded as very highly authoritative references. Shrutrani, aphorisms, those are the passages which present the truth in the Vedas in detail. There is just like this Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there are Jaimini Upanishad, there are Karma Kands also. There is a Anu Vyakhyani. Those are the explanations in a very detailed way. So Vyakhyani are the commentaries actually, like a Vyakhya, commentaries. Those are like a statement of the aphorisms and the mantras which deal with them thoroughly. So in this mantra, Rishi Yajnavalkya has put in a lot of information for us to dig out. All of these mentioned represent in themselves all forms of knowledge and authority which give us a thorough idea about the universe and the Supreme Soul and their relationship with each other. And what is the relationship? It is a complete identity without any trace of distinction. They cover the entire range of universal knowledge and sum up in themselves the whole concept of relative existence. Even as breaths come out of a human being naturally, and without any thought or effort on a person's part, so do these eternally existing forms of knowledge come out spontaneously out of the Supreme Self. This is what he's trying to tell us. So all this knowledge is coming out of the Supreme. That's why he says it's like the smoke, embers and flames spontaneously coming out from the fire. So this universe, prior to its manifestation, was Brahma only. And even after origination, that means when it's differentiated by name, form, and action, is to be accepted as not distinct from its original substance. Brahm. So it was Brahm at that time and Brahm right now too. We'll see that in the next mantra. It says at the time of dissolution, it again becomes one with Brahm. So before origination, the universe was Brahma, and after dissolution, it is one with Brahma. No change. Naturally, in the intermediate state of its existence, which we perceive, it's reasonably accepted to be nothing apart from Brahma. Something in the beginning was Brahma, something in the end will be Brahma, so that means right now it's a Brahma too. But our limited senses and limited mind and intellect cannot comprehend that. That's why we need to meditate. That's why we need to reach to that level where we can see Brahma now too. Because it's nothing but Brahma. It is as in the case of foam and bubble, which are identical with water at all periods of time. We all know that. Despite the illusory and seemingly different name and form, which we superimpose upon them. Actually, it's only water. So we have superimposed these names and the forms, and then we forget about it. So this universe should be rationally accepted to be the expression of the Supreme Being, neither different from him, nor an evolute of him, nor even a conscious or unconscious part of him. And we need to realize this. Because by realizing so, we will not behold duality or polarity or diversity of any kind. Because duality is unreal, unity is real. That is the doctrine related to this sutra or revealed by this mantra. That this is all one, this is all Brahma, by this example. Now let's look at verse number 11. And Yajnavalkya is continuing to explain this because he understands that this deep knowledge, just with one analogy or with one mantra or one statement, cannot be understood. So, verse number 11. Sa yatha sarva sampam samudra ekad ek ayanam evam sarvesham sparshanam त्वग एकायनम एवं सर्वेषां गंधानां नासिकेः एकायनम एवं सर्वेषां रसानां जीवः एकयानम एवं सर्वेषां रूपानां चक्षुर एक अयानम एवं सर्वेषां शब्दानां श्रोत्रम एकायनम एवं सर्वेषां सकल संकल्पनां मन एकानयम एवं सर्वेषां विद्यानां हृदयम एक अयनम एवं सर्वेषां कर्मणां हस्ताव एक अयनम एवं सर्वेषां आनन्दानां उपस्थ एकायनम एवं सर्वेषां विसर्गानां पायुर एकायनम एवं सर्वेषां ध्वनां पादा एकायनम एवं सर्वेषां वेदानां वाग एकायनम. As the sea is the one merging place of all sorts of water, as the skin is the one merging place of all kinds of touch, as the nostrils are the one merging place of all odors, as the tongue is the one merging place of all savors, as the eye is the one merging place of all colors, as the ear is the one merging place of all sounds, as the mind is the one merging place of all deliberations, as the intellect is the one merging place of all kinds of knowledge, as the hands are the one merging place of all actions, as the organ of generation is the one merging place of all pleasures, as the anus is the one merging place of all excretions, as the feet are the one merging place of all kinds of walking, as the organs of speech is the one merging place of all Vedas. So Rishi Yajnavalkya is continuing. He says at the time of dissolution, the universe, which is the expression of the absolute, merges, as it were, in its course. In this mantra, he has given 13 different examples. The self is pictured as the abode of all sense activities. All these examples illustrate that not only before creation and during continuance, but also at the time of dissolution and after, the universe is nothing but Brahma, just as foam and waves are nothing but water. This is the fact he is trying to establish. Sound, touch, form, taste, and smell are the manifestations of the 5 organs of knowledge. Jnanendriya. Through ear, skin, eye, palate, and nostril, respectively. Then the speech, motion, action, excretion, and enjoyment are the expressions of the 5 organs of action. Karam. The organ of speech, feet, hands, anus, and the generative organ, respectively. We are very much familiar with the 5 Jnanendriya and 5 Karmendriya. So 10 of them. Thought and knowledge are the expressions of the mind and the intellect. So thoughts are with the mind and the knowledge is with the intellect. The 5 organs of knowledge, 5 organs of action, the mind and the intellect are the abodes for their respective expressions. We use them every single day, whether we are feeling these terms or not. According to this mantra, the skin is the only abode of all sorts of touches. The nostril is the only abode of all kinds of odors. So all kinds means the touch could be soft, touch could be abusive. It's only through the skin. Odor could be sweet smelling, or odor could be not sweet smelling, only through the nostrils. So skin is the only abode of all sorts of touches. The nostril is the only abode of all kinds of odors. And thus all the remaining organs are the only abodes of their respective objects. He says, just like the ocean is the only abode of all waters. So the same way, these 12 organs are the only abodes of their objects. And the self is the only abode of all phenomena. And where did the 10 come from? 5 action organs, 5 sense organs, and mind and intellect. That's how he came up with the 12. So at these sense activities are only expressions and not something different from their organs. Same way, this universe is an expression and not something apart and distinguishable from the self, which is its abode. So through these examples which we are familiar with, he is taking our mind towards this unity, the oneness. There's no two, there's only one. And he wants us to meditate on this. Let's look at one more verse. This is verse number 12 now. Sa yathaha sa indhav khilaya udkehe prast udkam ev anuvilyet nahasye udgrahanayev syat yataha tavad it lavan ev evam va ar idam mahad bhutam anantam param विज्ञान घन एव एतोभ्य भूतेभ्य सम उत्थाय तान्यवान विनश्यति न प्रेत्यः संज्ञा सति त्यर्ह ब्रवीम इति ही उवाच याज्ञवल्क्यः. He is giving more examples over here. As a lump of salt thrown into water only dissolves into water, and none can at all pick it up. But from whichever part one takes the water, it has only a saline taste. Even so, my dear, this great, endless, infinite reality is only homogeneous. Homogeneous intelligence. Ghan. Ghan means homogeneous. On account of these elements, the self stands out separately, and as soon as those are destroyed, that means its a separate existence is also destroyed. After attaining isolation, it has no particular consciousness. This is what I say, my dear. So said Yajnavalkya. So we can see that how beautifully, patiently he is trying to give this deep knowledge with the help of these analogies to his dear wife. So this identity, which has been discussed in the previous mantra, is further explained through the analogy of salt and water. In other scriptures, they even talk about the salt doll, a doll made out of salt. You dip it into the ocean, it just becomes one with the ocean. Or a lump of salt thrown in water dissolves in it, and one is not able to pick up the salt from the water. But from whichever part we take a few drops and sip, it will taste saline. So the taste of the salt is felt in every part of that water. So this is the analogy to illustrate the great truth. That means that empirical self stands in comparison with a lump of salt. Just like a lump has no inner or outer aspect being, it's a salt throughout. The individual consciousness has no inner or outer aspect. It is essentially one homogeneous unit all throughout. It's not that God is more in this place than the other places. It's homogeneous. When the individual consciousness is merged in the totality of its source, which is called absolute, it loses its individuality and separateness, like the lump of salt dropped in water. That is the deep message of that analogy. So the concept of the division at the subject and the object falls in the category of erroneous judgment, because the truth is only one. The truth is only the absolute. Truth is the only which is infinite, unlimited, a mass of consciousness in which the empirical reality is merged. That is the purpose of this example here. These elements, which appear as the body and the organs, the absolute appears as an individualized entity. But as soon as these elements are annihilated through the knowledge of the self, the individual existence is destroyed too. You start feeling the oneness. It is like the reflection of the sun being destroyed when the reflecting medium is removed. You have a piece of glass, sun is being reflected, remove the piece of glass, there's no reflection. When the difference is created by ignorance or gone, because ignorance, avidya, is the one which keeps us separated. When that is removed, the universe becomes one with the absolute. It's like a solid mass of consciousness, which is infinite, unlimited, and non-dual. So having been freed from phenomenal consciousness or other limiting upadhis, the individual soul loses its particular consciousness, which relates to the body, senses, and the mind. Then it exists as a homogeneous mass of knowledge. This is what Yajnavalkya said to his wife, Matri. He said, "This, my dear, I say to you." With the help of these examples also, with the help of these different personal examples also, because we understand through our sense organs, action organs, our mind, intellect. So it just goes at the personal level also, and also outside of also. So there are a couple of more verses left. We'll try to finish this section next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.